She almost locked the door and went home alone that night. If she had, the dog sitting in the cold would never have found her. Instead, an old man carrying a gray pit bull stepped inside, and by morning, that dog would be the reason her heart remembered how to beat again. If you've ever wondered whether dogs can sense when someone is broken and choose to save them, stay until the end of the story. Hit that subscribe button because this channel shares stories of incredible dogs and the lives they touch in ways we never see coming. Let's begin. Linda was 40 years old when a dog named Max reminded her what it felt like to be needed. Her diner was failing, her body was tired, her heart had been grieving for so long that she no longer remembered what hope felt like. This is the story of a loyal pit bull who wouldn't leave her side, an old man who understood loss, and the moment a dog decided that two broken people deserved each other. The booths creaked when you sat down. The lights buzzed like they were struggling to stay awake. Most nights, Linda wiped the same clean counter just to feel useful. The diner had been her father's pride. He built it with his hands and his faith that people would always need a warm place to sit. Linda kept it open long after it stopped making sense. The regulars were gone. The lunch rush was a memory. Most days, she'd go hours without a single customer, but she couldn't close it. Not yet. There was one booth she couldn't walk past without stopping, the one by the window. Every night she wiped it down, even though no one ever sat there, even though the vinyl was already spotless. She'd stand there for a moment, cloth in hand, staring at the empty seat, like she was waiting for someone who'd never walk through that door again. Her father used to say the diner was a place for second chances, a place where people could come in cold and tired and leave feeling a little less alone. Linda didn't believe in second chances anymore. She didn't believe in much of anything, but she kept the lights on, kept the coffee warm, kept wiping down that booth by the window, because some routines are all that's left when everything else falls apart. She had already decided tonight would be like every other night. Lock up, go home, try not to think too much. But then, the bell above the door rang, and everything she thought she knew about that empty booth was about to change. Linda turned toward the door. Cold air rushed in first. Then came the man. He moved slowly, like every step had to be negotiated with his body. His coat was too thin for winter. His shoulders were bent under the weight of something she couldn't see. And in his arms, a dog, a gray pit bull, ribs showing through his coat, eyes tired but alert. The man didn't say anything at first, just stood there in the doorway, snow melting off his boots, breath visible in the cold air. Linda's hand was still on the counter. She'd been about to lock up, about to turn off the lights and go home to the same empty house she went home to every night. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way the man held the dog, carefully, like he was carrying something precious. Maybe it was the way the dog's eyes scanned the room, not with fear, but with quiet recognition, like he'd been here before. The man finally spoke. His voice was soft, worn down. "I'm sorry. I saw the lights still on. Are you closed?" Linda looked at the clock. She was. She should have said yes, should have told him to come back tomorrow, but she didn't. Because for the first time in a long time, someone needed something from her, and she'd forgotten what that felt like. "No," she said. "Come in." The man hesitated, then stepped inside. The dog's head lifted slightly, and his eyes locked on something across the room, the booth by the window, the one Linda kept clean, the one no one ever sat in. The dog made a sound, soft, low, like recognition. The dog was still staring at the booth by the window. Linda followed his gaze. Her chest tightened. That booth. The one she wiped down every night even though no one sat there. The one that used to have pencil marks on the table. The one where someone used to ask for pie before dinner. She forced herself to look away. The man was watching her. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "We can leave if—" "No." Linda's voice came out sharper than she meant. She softened. "It's fine. Sit anywhere." The man nodded slowly. He carried the dog over to a booth near the counter, not the one by the window. He set the dog down gently on the vinyl seat, then slid in across from him. The dog didn't take his eyes off Linda. Not aggressive, not hungry, just aware, like he was studying her. Linda grabbed a menu and walked over, her legs moving on autopilot. Up close, she could see how thin they both were. The man's coat hung loose on his frame, the dog's ribs pressed against his gray fur. But what struck her most was how carefully the man held himself, like someone who'd learned not to ask for too much. He opened the menu, stared at it for a long moment, then looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much. "What's the cheapest thing you have?" The question landed soft, but it hit hard. Linda glanced at his hands, weathered, shaking slightly. Not from cold, from time. She saw the coins on the table before he even counted them out. Loose change, nickels and dimes. Not enough for a meal, barely enough for coffee. Her throat went tight. She knew that feeling, the one where you're holding on by a thread and trying not to let anyone see. She opened her mouth to tell him the price, and then she heard her father's voice. "We're here to feed people, not count their money." She looked at the man, at the dog pressed against his side, at the way his shoulders carried something heavier than cold. "Sit tight," she said. "I'll take care of it." The man started to protest. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," she said. And she meant it, because neither of them were. They were just two people the world had forgotten to be kind to. Linda walked back to the kitchen without another word. Her hands moved on autopilot. She hadn't cooked a real meal in months. Most nights she'd heat up leftovers or eat nothing at all. The diner served food, sure, but it was mechanical, functional. This was different. She pulled out the cast iron skillet her father used to use, found the eggs that were still good, the potatoes she'd been meaning to use, bacon that still had a few days left. Her hands remembered what her heart had forgotten. She cooked slow, careful, like it mattered. The smell filled the diner, warm, rich, alive. For a moment, she forgot where she was. She was back in the kitchen with her son at the counter asking what was for dinner. She was back when the diner was full and her father was still alive and her marriage still had words left in it. Then the timer went off, and she was 40 years old again, standing alone in an empty diner, cooking for a stranger and a dog she'd never met. She plated the food, then stopped, looked at the second plate, and made another one for the dog. She carried both plates out. The man looked up. His eyes widened. I can't afford." "It's on the house," Linda said. She set the plate in front of him, then crouched down and placed the second plate on the floor for the dog. The man stared at the food like he didn't believe it was real. The dog didn't move at first, just looked at the plate, then up at the man, waiting. The man's voice cracked. "Go ahead, Max." Max. The dog had a name. Max lowered his head slowly and ate. Not fast, not desperate, like someone who'd learned not to expect a second meal, but was grateful for this one. The man picked up his fork. His hand shook. He took one bite, then another. Then he stopped, and Linda saw it. The exact moment his face changed. Not relief, not gratitude, something deeper. He looked up at her with tears in his eyes. "You didn't have to do this." Linda's throat tightened. "Yes," she said quietly, "I did." Because for the first time in 2 years, someone needed her. and she'd forgotten what that felt like. The man finished his meal in silence. Linda stood behind the counter, pretending to clean the coffee maker, but really, she was watching. The way he ate slowly, like he was trying to make it last. The way he glanced at Max every few bites to make sure the dog was eating too. The way his shoulders finally relaxed, just slightly, for the first time since he'd walked in. When he was done, he folded his napkin carefully, placed it on the empty plate. "Thank you," he said. His voice was quiet, heavy with something Linda recognized, gratitude that came from too many nights without it. She nodded. "It's no trouble." A lie, but a good one, the kind her father used to tell. The man started to stand. That's when Max moved. The dog had been lying quietly by the booth, but now he stood, walked past the man, and came straight to Linda. She froze. Max stopped right in front of her, looked up. His eyes weren't hungry, weren't scared. They were steady, knowing, like he could see something she'd been hiding. "Max," the man said softly, "come here, boy." Max didn't move, just kept looking at Linda. Then he did something that made her breath catch. He sat right at her feet and leaned his weight against her leg, not demanding, not needy, just there, present, solid, the first real weight she'd felt in months. Linda's hand trembled as she reached down. Her fingers touched the top of Max's head. The dog closed his eyes, leaned harder, like he was holding her up. "He doesn't usually do that," the man said. There was something in his voice, surprise, maybe even wonder. "Max only sits with people who need him." Linda looked down at the dog, at the gray fur under her hand, at the way he'd positioned himself like a barrier between her and the emptiness she'd been carrying. Her throat went tight. "I don't understand," she whispered. The man smiled, sad, knowing. "You don't have to." He stood slowly. Max still didn't move from Linda's side. "I had a daughter once," the man said quietly. His voice cracked, just slightly. "She loved dogs, trained them, said they could sense things we couldn't." He looked at Max, then at Linda. "She made me promise I'd take care of Max if anything happened to her." Linda's hand stilled on Max's head. She understood now, the weight the man carried, the way he held Max like something precious, the reason the dog knew how to find broken people. "What was her name?" Linda asked. The man's eyes filled. "Amelia." The name hung in the air between them. Amelia. Linda's hand was still resting on Max's head. The dog hadn't moved from her side. "How long ago?" Linda asked softly. The man looked down at his empty plate. 3 years. His voice was barely a whisper. Car accident. She was coming home from the shelter where she volunteered. A drunk driver ran a red light. Linda's breath caught. The words hit like a fist. Because she knew those words. She'd said them herself. Different details. Same ending. "I'm sorry," she said. The man nodded slowly. "After she died, I couldn't stay in that house, couldn't stay in that town. Everything reminded of her." He looked at Max. "So we've been walking. 2 years now. Going into diners, restaurants, anywhere that reminded me of the places she loved." His voice cracked. "Most people look at me like I'm invisible, or worse, like I'm something to be afraid of." He met Linda's eyes. "You didn't do that." Linda's throat tightened. She understood. God, she understood. Max pressed harder against her leg, like he knew what was coming. "I had a son," Linda said. The words came out before she could stop them. 2 years ago. Same thing. Drunk driver. he was 16. The man's face changed. Not pity, recognition. His name was Daniel, Linda continued. Her voice shook. He used to sit in that booth by the window, did his homework there every night while I closed up, asked if he could have pie before dinner. She looked at the empty booth. I still clean it, every night, like he's coming back. The man reached across the table, put his hand over hers. You've been strong for a long time, he said quietly. No one should carry that much pain alone. Linda's eyes filled. For 2 years, no one had said that to her. No one had seen it. Her ex-husband couldn't. Her friends tried, but they didn't understand. But this stranger, this man with a dog and loose change and a daughter named Amelia, he saw her. Neither should you, Linda whispered. Max made that sound again, soft, deliberate, and somehow Linda knew this dog had been trained for this, to find people drowning in grief, to sit with them, to refuse to let them drown alone. Amelia had trained him, and tonight, Max had found 2 people who needed each other. They sat in silence for a long time after that. Not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that happens when 2 people have finally said the truth out loud and don't need to fill the space with anything else. Max stayed at Linda's side. His warmth against her leg was the first real comfort she'd felt since Daniel died. Eventually, the man looked at the clock on the wall. I should go, he said. But he didn't move. Linda didn't want him to. She didn't want to be alone again, didn't want Max to leave, didn't want to go back to wiping down empty booths and pretending she was okay. But she couldn't say that. So she just nodded. The man stood slowly, reached into his pocket, pulled out the coins again, placed them carefully on the table. I know it's not enough, he said, but it's all I have right now. Linda looked at the coins, then pushed them back toward him. Keep it, she said. Her voice was firm. You'll need it more than I will. The man's eyes filled. I can't. You can, Linda said, and you will. She stood, walked around the counter, and for the first time in 2 years, she hugged someone. The man stood frozen for a moment, then his arms came up, and he hugged her back. Not like strangers, like 2 people who'd been lost in the same storm and finally found someone who understood. When they pulled apart, both of them had tears in their eyes. Thank you, the man whispered, for seeing me. Linda nodded. Thank you for seeing me too. The man called for Max. The dog stood reluctantly, looked back at Linda one more time, then walked to the man's side. The man picked him up carefully, headed toward the door. Linda watched them go, watched the door close, heard the bell ring one last time, and then they were gone. The diner was empty again, silent again. But something had changed. For the first time in 2 years, Linda didn't feel completely alone. She locked the door, turned off the lights, and went home, assuming that was the end of the story. But she was wrong, because the next morning, everything would change again. Linda arrived at the diner just after dawn. Same routine, same empty parking lot, same feeling of going through the motions. She unlocked the door, stepped inside, and stopped. There was something on the floor, an envelope, white, tucked just inside the door like someone had slid it under during the night. Her name was written on the front, in careful, unsteady handwriting. Linda. Her hands shook as she picked it up. It was thick, heavy. She turned it over. No return address, just her name. She knew who it was from. She sat down in the nearest booth, not the one by the window, and opened it. Inside was a letter, folded carefully, and beneath it, a check. Linda pulled out the check first, and her breath stopped. The amount was so large, she had to read it 3 times to make sure she wasn't seeing things wrong. More money than the diner made in a year. More money than she'd seen in one place in her entire life. Her hands trembled. She set the check down, picked up the letter, unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was the same as the envelope, careful, deliberate, like someone who'd taken their time. Dear Linda, by the time you read this, Max and I will be on the road again, but I needed you to know something before we left. Linda's eyes blurred. She blinked hard, kept reading. Dear Linda, by the time you read this, Max and I will be on the road again, but I needed you to know something before we left. Amelia used to say kindness was everywhere. I stopped believing that when I lost her. I've been walking through this country for 2 years, going into diners, restaurants, anywhere that reminded me of the places she loved. Most people looked at me like I was invisible, or worse, like I was something to be afraid of. You looked at me like I was someone's father, but it was Max who really knew. He sat with you because he recognized your grief. Dogs do that. They see what we try to hide. Amelia trained him to comfort people who were hurting. She volunteered at shelters, worked with therapy dogs, said they saved more lives than anyone gave them credit for. After she died, Max was the only thing I had left of her. Last night was the first time since she passed that he chose someone on his own. That's how I knew you were meant to save this place. The money in this envelope was Amelia's, her savings, her dreams, everything she'd worked for. I was going to bury it with me, but she would have wanted it to go somewhere it could keep people warm, somewhere a dog could still find broken people and remind them they're not alone. Your diner is that place. Please don't refuse it. Please don't send it back. Use it to keep the lights on, to keep feeding people who need it, to honor your father's faith that everyone deserves a warm place to sit. And maybe, just maybe, to remind yourself that you deserve that too. Thank you for feeding an old man and his dog. Thank you for letting Max do what he was born to do. Thank you for proving my daughter right. William. Linda pressed the letter to her chest and cried. Not the quiet tears she'd been holding back for 2 years. Real sobs. The kind that shook her whole body. The kind that finally let the grief out. But this time, she wasn't crying alone in the dark. She was crying in a diner her father built, holding a letter from a man who understood, carrying the gift of a daughter who believed in kindness. And for the first time since Daniel died, Linda believed it too. Linda sat in that booth for a long time, the letter in one hand, the check in the other. The morning light was coming through the windows now, soft, golden. The diner looked different in this light, less tired, less broken. Maybe it always had. Maybe she just hadn't been able to see it. She stood slowly, walked to the window, looked out at the empty parking lot, at the street beyond, at the world that had taken so much from her, but had also just given something back. She thought about William, about Amelia, about Max sitting at her feet like he'd known exactly what she needed. She thought about Daniel, about the booth by the window that she still couldn't sit in, about the way grief had become the only thing holding her together. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to let something else hold her too. She walked over to the booth by the window, the one she'd been cleaning for 2 years, the one she'd been too afraid to sit in. She slid into the seat, and for the first time since Daniel died, she didn't cry. She just sat there, in the morning light, in her father's diner, in the place where her son used to do his homework, and she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not the kind that erases pain, the kind that learns to live with it. That evening, she did something she hadn't done in months. She turned the sign to open early, made a fresh pot of coffee, prepped the grill, and waited. She didn't know if anyone would come, but that wasn't the point anymore. The point was that the lights were on, the door was unlocked, and anyone who needed a warm place to sit would find one here, just like her father always said. At 6 o'clock, the bell rang. Linda looked up and froze. William stood in the doorway, Max at his side. The man smiled, tired but real. "I know I said we'd be on the road," he said, "but Max wouldn't let me leave." He looked down at the dog. "He kept pulling me back here." Max's tail wagged, slow, steady. Linda felt her throat tighten. "Then maybe," she said quietly, "you should stay." William didn't answer right away, just stood there in the doorway, Max looking between him and Linda, like he was waiting for them to figure out what he already knew. "I don't have anywhere else to go," William said finally. His voice was quiet. "I've been walking for 2 years because I didn't know how to stop." Linda understood that. She'd been doing the same thing, just standing still instead of moving. "There's an apartment above the diner," she said. The words surprised her. She hadn't planned to say them. "It's not much, but it's warm and it's empty." William's eyes widened. "I can't." "You can," Linda said. "And you will." She smiled. "Someone told me that last night." William's expression cracked, just slightly. "I don't have money for rent." "Then you'll work it off," Linda said. "The diner needs help. I need help." She looked at Max. "And apparently Max thinks you should stay." The dog's tail wagged harder. William looked down at him, then back at Linda. "Are you sure?" Linda thought about the letter, about Amelia's money sitting in the bank now, about Daniel's booth by the window, about her father's belief that everyone deserves a warm place to sit. "I'm sure," she said. Max walked straight to Linda, sat at her feet, looked up at her with those steady, knowing eyes, and Linda realized something. Max hadn't just found her last night. He'd been looking for her because Amelia trained him to find people who needed saving, and Max knew exactly what he was doing. He'd found 2 people drowning in the same grief, and he'd refused to let either of them drown alone. Linda crouched down, ran her hand over Max's head. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing her, for sitting with her, for bringing William back, for reminding her that love doesn't give up even when everything else does." Max leaned into her hand, then turned and walked back to William, sat at his seat, looked up at both of them, and Linda swore the dog was smiling like he'd just finished the job Amelia gave him: find the broken people, sit with them, and don't leave until they remember they're not alone. William picked up Max. "Then I guess we're staying," he said. Linda smiled. "I guess you are." The diner stayed open, not because of money, but because a dog reminded 2 broken people that sometimes kindness comes with 4 legs and a wagging tail and refuses to leave until you're ready to live again. 3 months later, the diner looked different. The booths still creaked, the lights still buzzed, but now there were people in them. William worked the morning shift, made coffee that was actually good, talked to the regulars like he'd known them for years. Max had his own bed behind the counter and a bowl that was never empty. He still watched people carefully, still walked over to the ones who looked like they needed him, still sat with them until they smiled. The diner became what Linda's father always said it would be, a place for second chances, a place where people could come in broken and leave a little less alone. One evening, Linda was closing up. William had gone upstairs. Max was lying by the counter. She walked over to the booth by the window, the one she used to clean every night, the one she'd been too afraid to sit in. She slid into the seat, looked out at the street, and for the first time in 2 years, she talked to Daniel. Not out loud, just in her heart. "I met someone," she said. "His name is William. He lost his daughter. Her name was Amelia. She trained a dog to find broken people, and that dog found me." She smiled. "I think you would have liked him. The dog, I mean. His name is Max, and he saved my life." Max's head lifted like he'd heard his name. He stood, walked over to the booth, sat at Linda's feet, leaned his weight against her leg, just like that first night. Linda reached down, ran her hand over his head. "Thank you," she whispered, "for refusing to let her stay broken, for bringing William home, for reminding her that love doesn't end, it just finds new ways to show up." Max closed his eyes and stayed. If this story touched you, leave a comment and tell me, have you ever had a dog who just knew when you needed them most? If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now.